Oore, I have a question to ask you.
Okay.
What do you consider a defining moment in your life?
A defining moment. That's an interesting question. Let me have a seat. I'm coming. So July 28, 2016 is the day I consider to be a defining day in my life, with a defining moment. It was the day I rededicated my life to Jesus. There's a lot of story there, but I'm going to try and mention only the high points or some of the high points. So in 2016, I was in a very, very rock bottom place in my life. So many things were not going well in different areas of my life. Not like other years didn't come with their own baskets, but this particular year came with so many hits for me. I was in a place where I felt like I had genuinely hit rock bottom. So I was desperate. I was desperate for a solution. I was desperate to feel better. And even though I obviously knew about Jesus. I grew up in a Christian home. I was a very moral person, in quotes. I didn't have a personal relationship with Jesus. But when I got to this point where I was very desperate for a solution, very desperate for answers, I started remembering a lot of the things my parents had told me growing up. They had so many encounters, so many stories about their relationship with Jesus and what that has done for them. So a lot of the stories my parents had told me started coming back to my memory, and I started to remember all the things they said that working with God had done for them. So I started to feel like, okay, you know what? I should probably get very serious with this thing, because if nothing else is working, I'm inside and outside. I'm not in a good place at all, and I don't want to continue like this. I might as well try, actually working with God. So I think a couple of weeks after, the church I was in at that time was hosting its annual conference. It was a leadership conference, so it wasn't like, let's say, a deliverance conference, for example. It was a leadership conference, and I was a worker in the church, even though I didn't have a personal, very active, thriving relationship with Jesus, and I was outside. It got to a point during the service where they did an altar call. I typically wouldn't respond to something like that because I was very shy. I still am shy, but I was a lot more shy in that season of my life. So it would have taken a lot of effort for me to, leave the back, outside the church, walk all the way to the front, and it was just something I typically wouldn't do. But when I heard the altar call, I don't know, it was like it echoed to me. Till today, I'm not sure how exactly I got to the front, because when I heard the altar call from outside, the first thought that came to my mind was, I wouldn't do that. That's a lot of people and a lot of eyes. But I probably got very convicted, and I got to the front. Bottom line is, I went to the front. I was prayed for like a lot of people that came out, and then later that night I got back to my room that I was staying in at the time. I remember that evening that I started to have this very deep desire to know God for myself. It was I won't lie, it was pretty dramatic. It was not something that I couldn't have, orchestrated it or wired myself to feel that way. It was very divine. I started having this intense hunger to know God for myself. I had that desire for a couple of weeks before I eventually did something about it. So I started to get a Bible after a couple of weeks. In a translation I would understand. I got the Message Bible because it has an undertone of humor, and I just felt like a lot of the other translations at that time were just flying over my head. I needed something I would understand and enjoy reading. So I got the Message Bible and didn't actually start reading it until like, say, a couple of weeks after. But I got the Bible. So anyways, I started reading the Bible. I got the Message Bible. I got say a couple of weeks after I rededicated my life in church. And after a very short period of time, I started having this intense desire to get a book I could write some of the things I was learning in. And I genuinely believe that was God, because it wasn't something I could orchestrate or program myself to desire. It was a very intense desire once again. So I got something I saw around. I saw a brown book that was just a book. It wasn't a journal, but it was a book that was empty, and it would do the job. So I decided to start using it to just write some of the things that were jumping out to me while studying. And I remember that before I actually started using the journal, the book of First Kings was very highlighted in my heart, and I was very confused that why is First Kings coming to my mind, because I was like, there's Romans, there's Corinthians, there's John, there's Luke. why the heck am I reading the why am I starting the Old Testament? And I genuinely believe that was God, because there's no other explanation for it. There was no other influence, absolutely nothing like that. It's very interesting because before I started actually working with God and actually spending time studying God's word and praying and worshiping and being in His presence, when people tell me that they heard God or God said, I used to be genuinely confused. I used to be like, what do you mean God said? How did it sound? Like, why is He talking to you? Like, it was something that genuinely confused me. So I remember that when I got this very, what I would know now to be a leading, this very loud leading in my heart, I was very, very shocked that, wow, I'm being led, So anyways, I started, despite my trying to resist a lot, I eventually surrendered. I'm not even sure why, but I eventually surrendered and started reading the book of First Kings. And it was so, that I feel like the book of First Kings is currently one of my favorite Bible books in the Bible, second to Joshua, because of how much God used it to change my life. It's very incredible. The more I read it, the more overwhelmed I would get with the word of God, because I was like, wow, this is so incredible. So many things were jumping out at me. I started hearing God, I started seeing visions, so many incredible things during that season of my life. I think that season was about 3 months, and it was a season where I wasn't really doing a lot of things. I wasn't socializing. Besides, the things I had to do on a regular, I wasn't really socializing as much. I wasn't even telling people all these things that were happening. It was so secret, so private, so special to me. And I remember just feeling so overwhelmed that, wow, do other people see these things in the Bible? Do people know how incredible? In fact, it became my hobby, and it's not a religious thing. Like, I genuinely just wanted to spend time with God. It was incredible. I was so overwhelmed. I learned about the love of God. I feel like I learned so many things I needed in that season. And in that season of my life, I was really struggling with low self-esteem for so many reasons. So I really needed a lot of the things I was learning. It was in that season God gave me instructions for certain things I'm currently doing. It was extremely mind-blowing for me. I still made a lot of mistakes. I still committed a lot of sins. I still fell into a lot of error. But this time it was different. God would, wrap me in His arms. I would go back to Him in surrender, in repentance. He would tell me what to do next, what not to do. Sometimes I would disobey. Sometimes I would be, broken enough to surrender. But that's when my journey started, and it was extremely incredible. After a period of time of, I think getting halfway to First Kings, I started feeling like I needed to learn more on a particular subject. Prior to that, I had never listened to any message in my entire life besides message preached in a physical church. I'd never listened to a message via audio, like audio tapes or ignore the chicken via audio tapes or YouTube, or never, absolutely never, I kid you not. But I started having this desire to learn more on a particular subject, so I went on YouTube. And then I typed the subject, and the first person that jumped out at me was somebody that I absolutely love now, and that is why, because I don't listen to him actively anymore, but God used him in that season to start a chain reaction in my life. And that was when my life really started to take the turn and the shape that it currently has. And so that's why I think that season was a defining moment in my life, because it really, really absolutely changed my life. And it wasn't like a walk in the park. It wasn't sudden. There are still a billion things I learn every day. I still make a billion mistakes. But it was the day that I'll always be thankful to God for, because God used it, like I said, to absolutely change my life. So it was a defining moment. So I know that this might sound like a cliche for some people. Someone is asking me what's a defining moment in my life, and I'm telling them the day I rededicated my life to Jesus. I genuinely and truly believe that was the defining moment in my life. God used that season to absolutely change my life, start a chain reaction that tremendously changed my life, and that is continuing to change me. And so I want to encourage you, if you are listening to me right now, you might have known God for a while, and you might have been around the systems of the church for a while, but you've never had a personal, active, thriving relationship with Jesus. I want to encourage you to come closer to Him. There's more. Please come. He's knocking at the door of your heart. He wants to have an intimate relationship with you, not just a form of godliness, not just Christianity that is #God first without the fruits of repentance and the fruits of salvation, but an active, thriving relationship with Jesus. Jesus, please come to him. That's what I have for you today. That's my story. I'd like to hear from you. What's your story? Have you dedicated your life to Jesus before, or have you given your life to Jesus, first at all? I would like to hear from you. Please tell me in the comment section. I'd be reading and really love to read your story. If you are new here, welcome. I'm so glad that you're here. Please don't forget to subscribe, to like, to comment, and to share. And if you are a returning subscriber, thank you so much. So thank you guys for being here. I'll see you in my next video. Bye.
Oore, what do you? Did you answer? I was expecting an answer.